All right, welcome back to the garage, everybody, for day number 3 of our race car revival. It's actually the day after we got it pulled out of its grave, got it cleaned up, brought back into the garage. Where yesterday it was 62 degrees and a great day for working outside and getting the car cleaned up. Today it is 30 some degrees and we have the furnace running behind me, so hopefully that noise isn't too loud or it doesn't become too distracting. But today we're to come in here and see if we can get into the rear end of this car, take a look at the rear suspension, look at the brakes, look at everything back here, and get an idea of what we're going to need to replace as we get ready to get this thing back to being worthy of being on the racetrack. So thanks for coming to join us again today. Let's go ahead and dig right into this. All right, so we did get the car up on jack stands this morning. The first thing we're going to do here is go ahead and get this wheel and tire off. Some nice smelly water in there from yesterday. Oh. Leftover spider webs. Tell you what though, everything here is looking pretty decent. Definitely got some surface rust on this rotor, but really that's nothing. Brake pads, but they got a lot of meat left on them. I want to pull those out and scuff those up. I haven't gotten in the car yet to see if we actually do have any brakes right now. Doesn't really matter because they'd have to be rebled anyhow. I'm not super concerned about the calipers. What we found as we were looking at this yesterday is that even though that tarp kind of sucked, it did a really good job of keeping a lot of moisture out and off of things. A little bit of stuff on the surface, but really all in all, not too bad. I already backed the spring jack off of this side. And not only do I have the frame up on jack stands, but we're going to go ahead and put this rear end on different separate set of jack stands here. But first, I'm going to unhook my chain, unhook the shock. That was easy. We'll probably want to go over to the other side and unhook that chain and shock as well, so that we can let this down and get the springs out and have it supported so that we could come in here and check the trailing arms out, check the hymens on these, which just a quick look there actually doesn't look too bad here. We'll want to check the ones up there. And then look at the frame and see if I got any cracks or anything that have developed over time. As you can see, this car is still a full frame car. Good old metric GM cut off up here at the rear end. 2x3 box tubing back. This car is an old SS chassis. It's who originally built this car. If you're in the Western Pennsylvania area, you know that chassis builder quite well. Chris builds a good car. And this car, for me, was still pretty competitive up until the time that we switched. So I'm excited to see what it'll do with some of the stuff that I've learned from the new car. Now, there was some other work done to this car before I bought it. I was the third owner. And I know that Roosted Chassis folks did some work to it. The previous owner did some of their own work to it. And honestly, we've done some of our own tweaks and repairs as well. So it's got a little bit of everybody's hands on it at this point. But I still think it's a pretty decent car. Surprised this is one of my good shocks still on this car. Not sure how excited I am about that. There it is. I don't know what takes longer at this point, moving this cam around or finding the tools that I just had 2 minutes ago. There we go. That broke loose. That shock loose. Get it the rest of the way out of here. Definitely one of my good ones. I'll send that back to get looked at. All right. We got everything unhooked here. I'll go ahead and let this rear end down on the jack stands. So we get the springs out and then start pulling trailing arms. Okay. Get this spring out. I'll go ahead and pull the spring cup because this is going to get cleaned up and lubed up, which it very much needs. I'm going to get one more jack stand under the third member here. So that when I start pulling trailing arms, the whole thing doesn't go and fly forward. All right, so what I'm looking at here is to see anything that obviously needs to be replaced. Like this brake line here has got a fair amount of rust on it. Might just be surface rust, but I don't know. I might end up replacing that. Braided lines look good on both sides. Well, we will take calipers off, clean those up. And honestly, I'm going to get in the car and actually try the brakes before I do that. Caliper bolts, I am going to replace those and clean all up so that it slides nice and smoothly. I said the trailing arms have got to come out. We're going to check the heims, and I'll show you on one of those what I do. But other than that, other than still being a little bit dirty, everything fortunately is looking pretty good under here. All right, so I got the first trailing arm out. These trailing arms are adjustable trailing arms from Close Racing Supply. Some aluminum bar there with the high ends on both sides. And what I'm looking for here, I went ahead and sprayed it with brake clean, got it cleaned up, got the rest of the gunk and oil and everything off it. And I'm feeling to see if there's any play back and forth in this ball and make sure that it spins smoothly, which you can see this one does. I'm not feeling any play there. I got no issues with that rod end there. This one spins pretty good. I'm not feeling any play. I don't love that rust that's on there though. So I think we're definitely going to go ahead and replace that rod end. It's left-handed thread one. And I know I'm trying to do this on as much of a budget as I can, but stuff like this. I'd hate to have that break on me and then end up in the wall because I don't want to replace a Heim joint. So we'll swap that out. The other thing that I'll do before I change that out is make sure I take a center to center measure on that and have that so that I can get them back in the same place. I also like to keep all those center to center measurements so I have a good baseline to go back to. So if I start making changes to this car and don't like what I did, I can always go back to where I felt comfortable with it and then start again. Everybody, this is Nick checking in from Close Racing Supply, where we just attended the weekend-long Race Tech Info Chassis School with Close Racing and Bob Harris Enterprises. And we learned a lot of great information that we're going to be able to apply to the newer car and also this current build we're working on. Picked up some parts, but what was really cool is that as far as timeline goes, we were here about a week after the first video posted and about a day before video 2 posted, and got a lot of great feedback. Folks from up here that had watched video 1 and are interested in what we're getting into. So I just wanted to say thanks real quick. I appreciate the words of encouragement, and we'll see where we get to. Now, back to this rear end rebuild. All right, so the next phase of this cleanup is we're going to attack this fuel cell. It needs to come out of here, and I want to make sure it's still in good shape. Definitely needs a repaint, but I think we're structurally sound. So we're going to work on that next. And then after that, probably unbolt the lead. Anything else up here that needs to come off, get all cleaned out, repainted up, and then go after the rear end housing. All right, fuel soak can's a little rough, but we'll be able to clean it up, repaint it. It looks worse than it is structurally, so we'll be okay there. While I'm working on this, I'm gonna put Dad to work. He's gonna drain the oil out of the rear end, and we'll start working on that end of things. A lot of oily dirt on this fuel cell, because that's the front side. It was, engine was leaking quite a bit of oil at the end of that season. So unfortunately, everything back here is pretty much coated just like this. Oh, trying to scrape this first layer off, and we'll spray it down and do it again. All right, so we tested the wires in this car the other day, and as part of that, we turned this fresh air pump on, and there was nothing fresh about it. They could blew some stuff out of the hose at us, and it smelled pretty bad, so I got a feeling it's gonna be full of stuff, but we're gonna pull this hose off now and take a look. There's something in there, but not too much. Here's what I want to see. Oh, let's see what's in the filter. I'm almost, there's a little bit of mouse house or something in there. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and throw that away and put a different one on. Yeah, there's definitely a nest of some sort in there. We're gonna put the juice to it, see what happens. It comes flying out. Ugh. No, nothing's flying out, but it definitely stinks.
There's not much air coming out.
Go ahead. Mmm. Yeah, just leave that in there. We'll just throw it all away. Well, it's not perfect, but it'll work for what I'm trying to do. I'm gonna get the bottom sprayed down tonight so that I can work on the rest over the weekend. Gonna hit it with some rust reformer and then hit it with the red. All right, there's our coat of rust reformer. We'll let this dry and come back with the red tonight. All right, while that's drying, we might as well go ahead and get rid of this thing. That held on with clamps, a couple 1/2-inch bolts, a little bit overkill, but that's what the clamps are set up for. Get those off, and then this thing's going right in the scrap pile. All right, that coat is dry. I come in here with the red now, and it's the perfect conditions to paint this in. I don't really need to see what I'm doing here. All right, first coat's on there. And trust me, it's red. All right, so I'm gonna write on these and go back and look at this when I reinstall so that I remember where these go. But these are getting repainted, so I'll have to mark them better than that. Whoop. I'll have to mark them better than that before I spray them back down white. But this lead's been on here a long time, and it could definitely benefit from a new coat of paint. All right, so I'm taking a measurement where this clamp was from the bar, and it's 5.5 inches away from the inside of the bar. So that when I put that lead back on, it'd be back in the same place. But quite honestly, as I think about it, the weight rules have changed for this class since the last time I raced this car. And now I only have to be 2,900 pounds. So might be an opportunity to not need all of this weight. And knowing I'm going to be a little underpowered with that 383, might not be a bad idea to put this on the scales before I lock the deck down. See where we're at percentage-wise. And we might go without putting this lead back on. We'll see what happens. Another reason why I'm taking these clamps off and this weight off and looking is just to inspect these bars. That 50-pound chunk of lead's been hanging for a while. I just want to make sure that nothing here is cracked. And the top looks okay. Take a picture of the bottom and check that out. I don't feel anything. I do want to make sure I get in there and look as well. But I think we are okay here. It's another little hack. If you got something like this, big chunk of lead that's in a tricky spot and you need to move it, we got a bunch of these big wire ties that we use and kind of loosely strap it in place so that you don't have to worry about dropping it on anything like rear end housing or your toes. All right, so we've got the clamp undone for the weight. There we go. Wire ties held that up nicely. Now I should be able to flip that up to the top of the bar and lift it off. That is just paint chipped off, no cracks there, which is good. I didn't take you long for that ride, but good news, we got it out and I didn't smash any fingers. All right, I actually did turn it so I could see what I was doing. It looked much better in the dark, but for the bottom of the fuel cell, that's 3 coats of paint. That'll be plenty good enough. At this point, I think it's gonna be it for here tonight. I'm gonna do a little bit of cleanup on these bars before I get out of here. We'll be back later this weekend at some point and try to get this back end all buttoned up. As far as what we have left to do, we still have to pull these hubs apart, check everything out there, clean up the brakes. I'm gonna pull this rear end out. Third member's gonna come out first, and then we're gonna take the entire housing out of it. I still gotta get those heims out of those trailing arms, replace those. We'll get everything cleaned up and then put it all back together as long as everything looks good. All right, we're back again. Third day on this part of the project. Next thing is we're gonna pull that third member out of the rear end, get those hubs off, get that pulled out and cleaned up. One of the things I certainly do not miss about this car is the fact that it's got a full 9-inch in it. There's a floater, so I already went ahead and pulled the axles out. The other car has a quick change in it. In our division, we were allowed to go to a quick change 2 years ago. And honestly, in my opinion, that was one of the better moves we made, especially as it comes to cutting costs. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, isn't a quick change a lot more than a regular 9-inch or a floater 9-inch? You buy brand new for sure. We ended up getting an old one out of a late model, and then we took it and had the steel tubes put in it, and we had it checked out, made sure everything was good internally, had the steel tubes put on it. Close Racing Supply, which is not that far away from us, they sell a bunch of bolt-on brackets and wet-on brackets for the quick change in a stock car. Not sponsored by them, but that is where we bought all of our brackets from. And then local to me here is Franklin Ends, so that's who we took it up to have it gone through. Again, not sponsored, but they're local and they did a great job. And honestly, when it comes to gears, that's where the cost savings comes into play, in my opinion. It's a gear set for a quick change. It's considerably cheaper than a complete third member for a 9-inch. And honestly, if you get up over, in my experience, anything over a 600 gear ratio, they don't really last. So you're going through a lot of gears. And even if you're like us and you're setting them up here at the garage, it's still $150, $200 for a set of gears. And then all the time you gotta spend getting them set up just right. Give me the quick change any day. So we actually pulled all the oil out of it the other night when we were here and let it drain. Oh. There we go. All right, that's the worst of it. All right, the second side is apart. That took about a quarter of the time since I did it once and had all the right tools. So far, everything's looking pretty decent. But we do need to get that knocked apart and cleaned up, check those bearings, clean up that caliper. Just checking in here, just finishing up for today. Didn't have a lot of time, but you can see the fuel cell was all red now. We did get the rear end housing out, took it out and pressure washed the rest of the grease and stuff off of that, and even rebuilt the back end of the frame. So it all looks blue again. Tomorrow we'll do those hubs. All right, so the next phase of this project is to check everything that we've torn apart. We're gonna start with the axles here. I'm gonna make sure that they're straight. Got this nifty little axle straightness checker jig that I just recently bought. We'll make sure that they're both good. We're also gonna put a line on them to make sure that in the future, when we pull them out and we're doing gear changes, we can check for axle twist. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Just give them a quick spin here. But I'm just looking for any sort of noticeable, it's really out of whack. Okay, so I'm gonna go through and get all these different parts cleaned up that we pulled off of here. We'll start with the brake pads and calipers. Nest action on here and grease from whatever was leaking on that thing. And apparently we've gone a couple different colors on these calipers. Well, we'll bust out the brake clean and get these cleaned up. Should go get a brush. All right, got the old brake pad spacer here. Just clean that up real quick. So we were having issues getting the brake pedal to be solid at some point and realized we had too much of a gap with our rotors. So put one of those in the rear brakes, fixed it right up. The brake pads here, these are actually AFCO brake pads. They're relatively new for as bad as they look. So I'll clean these up here and then I'll sand them and show you what I do with that to get the glaze and this little bit of dirt and rust off of them. They'll be good as new. Lastly, this dirty old hub. Pull these out. Pull this bearing out for now. I don't see any issues with any of the roller. Cage is still in good shape. So we will blow out, what's that? Oh, just a piece of something on my glove. So we'll blow out the old grease and we'll re-grease these before we put it all back together. Something tells me the seal's leaking back here. A little bit of grease. Oh yeah. All right, jacking back in here. Got the rear end back in the car. Nice cleaned up. We got everything cleaned out of here. Snout's looking pretty good. Not that I expected anything different, but it's nice to know as we got it all apart. Rotors were all cleaned up. Hubs cleaned up. This one wasn't so bad. The one on the other side, the rear seal was leaking, so there was a lot of oil over there. Everything else is pretty much cleaned up. Brake pads, still got to scuff those up, and we'll do that at another time. But my next goal for this project is to get the preload spacer set up for the rear hubs. This car did not have these in them. Been running them on the front for years and years and years. Did not put them on the back side of this car. So we're going to spend time doing that, which means we're going to have to take the hub on and off a few different times and get those set up on this side and then repeat the step on the other side. I'm not going to grease these bearings again until I get through all this process. So I'm actually going to use the snout here to help me get started. I'm going to slide my rear bearing on here. And I could see a line where the old bearing was rotting. I kind of use that to my advantage to get the width of the preload spacer set up as close as I can before I have to take and test this 100 different times. I've got that set to where it's just at that little mark there. It's just peeking through. So I'm going to start with that. All right. So I got everything back in there, but I got way too much play in that hub, which means my spacer is too wide. So, take it back apart, try again. It's probably a little too tight.
It's just a smidge.
Yep.
No play at all?
No play.
Yeah, you're right there. That's perfect. Now you know you gotta lock that down, right?
Yeah, well, I got to grease the bearings, put the seal in yet too. So that's next. All right, so now that we got that set, we want to lock down this Allen set screw here. I actually probably should do this with it on there.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Well, it's deforming the inner.
Doesn't go all the way through, does it?
It doesn't, but it was pushing the inner piece there. So maybe we'll just wait until that goes back on and make sure it's good and tight. Except we're gonna do is grease wheel bearings. We're gonna use low friction grease for this instead of the traditional pack them full of grease. This stuff you get in here every other cavity and hit it with a shot and then roll it around there. And they say that's good for about 20 races. So in our case, we'll get the whole season out of this if all goes well. All right, so with the other side all together, over here on the right side of the car, we got the bearing spacer figured out. We have the first bearing oiled up or greased up. We're gonna get the seal put in here. So how we do this, and as my disclaimer, doesn't mean this is the way you should do it. This is how we do it. Get the seal started or sat on top of here. Use a brass hammer, kind of tap around it to get it started. There we go. It's going now. And while I'm sure they make tools to put this seal the rest of the way in, we're going to use our socket for the hub nut and get it tapped the rest of the way in. So now we're going to go ahead and put the hub back on. We have the seal replaced, have that bearing in there, and this put on there. We've got our spacer, we'll put that on next. And I've got my outer bearing. And then got my lock ring, and make sure I get that in there. And then me and Dad were having an argument over which way this nut goes in. I was saying it needs to go in this way with the chamfered edge pointing out. He said the chamfered edge goes in. So he's the one that has been setting them up for me for years. So I'm going to trust his judgment. But I'm curious, how do you all do this if you are a racer that's installed these Grand National hubs before? Drop down in the comments and let us know. I'll either finally get bragging rights on him on something or just have to tell him he was right again. And we got this set at 25. That's my click. Yeah, 25 foot-pounds there. All right, so the back end is all put back together, at least as far as we're gonna go for now. I still have to do the brakes yet. That's gonna have to wait for another day. The rear end is back in there. Obviously needs springs and shocks and all that good stuff. I'm doing that later. Fuel cell is back in. And yeah, the paint touched back up. So I think everything's looking pretty good. But I think that's gonna do it for this video. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Actually, I have to shift gears here a little bit this week. Now that I could put this car back on 4 tires, I need to get this car here over where the project car is sitting, project car over where the complete car is sitting, because we're only about a month away from our season starting at this point. And there's a little bit of setup work and stuff that I need to do on that car, on the complete car. So that'll be coming up next. It might be a week or two until we're back on the project car. We'll just kind of see how things play out. As far as the project car, I did get all the engine pieces ordered. They're on their way. Engine blocks at the machine shop. Expect to get that back soon. Hopefully we'll get the crank and the pistons and the rods here. Well, the rods are here. We're reusing an old set, but the crank and the pistons here so that when my dad goes to pick up the block, he could drop that stuff off and get that balanced before we put it all together. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. If you would be so kind, please share. Be sure to subscribe. Click that like button and leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions. If you have any input on the things you see us do. If I screwed something up and you think I should do it better, feel free to send that my way as well. Been doing this a long time. Doesn't mean I necessarily know what I'm doing. But for now, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time. Bye.